Every single hour you spend, clicking around and manually gathering research, well, it is an hour your competition is getting ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
And not because they are smarter than you, not because they're working harder. They just automated the boring stuff.
Right. It is kind of the harsh reality of modern knowledge work, honestly. We are wasting so much of our cognitive energy on just, like, repetitive mechanical tasks.
Yeah, just trying to get the information in front of us.
Exactly.
So welcome to the deep dive. I want to set our tone right away today because we are unpacking a really fundamental shift here.
For sure.
This is not just, another quick productivity hack to save you 5 minutes. We're looking at how you interface with human knowledge itself.
It is a big one.
It really is. So here is the roadmap for today. First, we will look at why people use Google's NotebookLM completely the wrong way.
Oh, they definitely do.
Yeah. Then we will bring in Anthropic's Claude to act as a sort of conductor to fully automate it.
A conductor. I like that.
And then we will look at the actual step-by-step setup. And finally, we will set it loose to build these autonomous daily research machines.
It genuinely sounds like magic when you first see it work. But I mean, it is really just very smart engineering.
Exactly. So let's approach this calmly. Stay inquisitive today. Don't let the technical automation overwhelm you, because the underlying philosophy here is what actually matters. Let's look at the first piece of this puzzle, NotebookLM. It is a brilliant tool, but I think almost everyone is using it totally wrong.
They absolutely are. And, to understand why, we kind of have to break down what the tool actually is.
Right.
Because NotebookLM is built by Google, it is powered by their Gemini model, but it operates completely differently than, say, ChatGPT or a standard Claude interface.
It is much more constrained.
Radically constrained. You feed it specific sources, and it uses only those sources to answer your questions.
Right. So it is entirely closed off. It is not just pulling random facts from the broader internet at all.
Exactly. It works exclusively with what you give it. So you can drop in a dense PDF file, you can add web URLs, or paste YouTube video links.
Or even just raw meeting notes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Raw text works perfectly.
And then it essentially acts as an expert on that specific pile of data.
Well, more than just an expert, it generates these massive professional outputs based entirely on your inputs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can create incredibly clean slide decks, it generates steady flashcards, it builds complex mind maps.
Right.
It even creates those two-host audio summaries, which is essentially a completely custom podcast analyzing your documents.
It is an incredible suite of tools, but as you look closer at the actual daily workflow, there is a glaring issue. Yeah, the manual labor. Exactly. The manual way people interact with this is deeply flawed.
It is totally exhausting.
Right.
Because most people, they open NotebookLM, they click to create a new notebook, and then they have to go hunt for sources somewhere else.
Wow, tabbing back and forth.
Right. They find a YouTube video, copy the link, paste it into the tool, and then they just sit there and wait for it to load.
Which takes a minute.
Then they find an article, copy it, paste it, wait again, then they finally click through some menu to generate a slide deck.
They are doing it one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the early days of automobiles. You had to stand out in the mud and hand crank the engine just to get the car started.
That is a great analogy.
The human is the bottleneck in the loop here.
Yeah.
You are doing all the mechanical labor of moving data from point A to point B.
And that loop simply does not scale. I mean, you have to be physically sitting at your desk, you have to remember to actually do the research,
Right.
and you have to manually click through every single action yourself. Your brain is basically tired before you even start reading the output.
Which brings up a really interesting tension here. We want the AI to be autonomous, to go out and get the data for us.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want it to be perfectly accurate, which is why we use NotebookLM in the first place. So why is restricting the AI to only your uploaded sources actually its biggest superpower?
It eliminates hallucinations by citing the exact source document for every single claim.
That is profound. There is no guessing.
None.
There are no vague, well, I think this is true, kind of responses. Everything is entirely grounded in reality.
Exactly.
But that grounding is useless if we are still hand-cranking the engine.
Right.
We need to remove the human bottleneck entirely. We need a conductor to orchestrate this.
And that conductor is Anthropic's Claude. But we need to be clear here, not the standard Claude you use in your web browser.
Right.
Claude is an AI assistant, sure, but it has different forms. It goes way beyond just answering questions. When you give it the right environment, it can take real action.
Yeah.
It can search the web, write files, and crucially, it can communicate with other software.
The source material is very specific about this, actually. There are 3 different versions of Claude, and we should clarify that so nobody gets lost.
Yeah, that is important. So if you are a Claude user, you generally see 3 main modes. First is chat. That is your regular conversation, best for just asking questions.
Pretty standard.
Right. Second is projects, where Claude works alongside you with a specific set of files you upload.
But to build an autonomous machine, we actually need the 3rd mode,
Yeah.
Claude Code.
Exactly. Claude Code is a completely different beast. It is a developer tool that runs directly in your computer's terminal.
Okay.
It executes code, reads your local files, and connects to external tools. It operates as a fully autonomous agent that can actually do things right on your machine.
And this is where the magic really happens. We are connecting the action taker, Claude Code, to the synthesizer, NotebookLM.
Yes.
But there is a massive technical hurdle here. NotebookLM does not have an official public API. Google has not built a backdoor for other apps to talk to it.
Right, and without a public API, software tools cannot easily shake hands. They cannot exchange data in the background.
Which is a problem.
A huge problem. And that is exactly where a new piece of technology called MCP comes in to save the day.
I see that acronym everywhere right now, and I will be honest, my eyes usually kind of glaze over. Model Context Protocol. It sounds incredibly dense. Let's define that jargon simply. What is MCP actually doing for us?
A digital bridge letting AI operate other apps like a human.
A digital bridge. I like that. So MCP bridges the gap. And a developer named Jacob Ben-David actually built a specific package for this bridge called the Notebook MCP package.
It is a brilliant piece of engineering, honestly. Claude Code sends natural language instructions to this MCP server running right on your machine.
Wow.
The server translates those instructions and handles all the heavy lifting. It creates the notebooks, loads the sources, and triggers the audio or slide generation.
Well, I have a vulnerable admission to make here. Even knowing how powerful all of this is, I still get intimidated whenever I have to open a command terminal.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, staring at a black screen with blinking text, it feels like stepping into the Matrix. Are we doing actual coding here?
That feeling is completely normal. The terminal is super intimidating, but I promise you, no coding experience is required for this at all.
Really?
You are not writing software. You are just talking to Claude and telling it to run a few installation commands for you.
Okay, but let's clarify the mechanism of how this bridge actually works. Since there is no official Google API quietly passing data back and forth, how is Claude actually interacting with NotebookLM?
The MCP package quietly opens Chrome in the background and clicks buttons for you.
It is literally acting as a ghost in the machine.
Exactly.
It mimics human clicking. It opens a hidden browser, navigates to the website, and clicks the upload button, just like you would.
Yeah.
That is incredibly clever, but
Yeah.
it also raises some real security concerns, which makes the actual step-by-step setup critical to get right.
Yes. So let's walk through the actual build. It is surprisingly straightforward. You do not even need to download a separate scary terminal application.
Oh, nice.
You just open your standard Claude desktop app and you will see a little code tab right at the top. You just click that.
And then you establish a workspace. You click Select Folder at the bottom left, and you point it to just an empty folder on your computer.
Right.
That becomes Claude's home base for this specific project.
Next, you need to install Jacob's Bridge package. Because Claude Code acts like a developer inside your terminal, you do not go downloading zip files from random websites.
You just type it out.
Exactly. You just type a plain English prompt. You tell Claude to reach out to the internet, grab the specific Notebook MCP package, and install it globally on your machine.
Then you tell Claude to run a setup command to link that newly installed package directly to your Claude Code environment.
Claude executes both of those requests automatically. It downloads the files, configures the bridge, and reports back when it is done. There are no confusing configuration files you have to edit manually.
It's remarkably smooth. But then we hit the authentication step. You have to connect this whole system to your Google account so it can actually access NotebookLM.
Right. So you ask Claude to run the authentication setup. And at that point, a visible Chrome browser window pops open on your screen.
You can actually see it this time.
Yes. You simply log into your Google account just like normal.
And you just let it load. Once the login is completely finished, you tab back over to Claude Code, press Enter, and it saves a secure cookie. From that point on, Claude can access NotebookLM without ever asking for your password again.
But this is exactly where we need to pause and talk about the risks.
Yes. I want to push back on this step heavily because the source material highlights a crucial warning that we simply cannot skip.
No, we cannot.
This entire process relies on browser automation. It is literally controlling a Chrome browser to click buttons. And Google has very sophisticated detection systems designed to catch automated robotic behavior.
It is a very real risk. Google systems might see a browser clicking things perfectly every 0.1 seconds and flag the account for unusual activity.
So the implication here is that you could lose access to your account. I strongly advise you, do not use your primary personal Gmail or your main work account for this setup.
Never.
Create a dedicated separate Google account just for this automated research. Keep it entirely isolated. It completely removes the risk of your main emails or photos getting locked up in a Google security sweep.
That is a very smart boundary to set. Just treat it like a burner account for your AI assistant.
Exactly.
So once you have authenticated that dedicated account, your next step isn't to build a massive project. It is to test the plumbing.
You can have Claude run a system health check. You just tell it to run its doctor protocol and report back if any of the connections are broken.
But you also need a real-world test. Before you try to automate your entire life, verify that the ghost in the machine can actually see your NotebookLM account.
What is the single biggest mistake people make right after installing this?
Assuming it worked without running the quick connection test to list recent notebooks.
Exactly. They assume the installation was flawless. They try to build a complex workflow, and it completely fails. You must test it first. Just type into Claude, access my NotebookLM account, and list the 3 most recent notebooks I have. If Claude types back the exact names of your notebooks, you know the bridge is solid.
A simple 2-minute check saves you hours of debugging.
Right. So, we have laid the foundation here. We have successfully bridged Claude Code's action-taking ability with NotebookLM's analytical engine. We are no longer hand-cranking the Model T. Now we build the autonomous machine.
This is where the friction of learning just completely evaporates. We have got 3 core real-world use cases from our sources to break down. Let's start with the most common one.
Okay.
Researching a totally new topic from scratch.
Imagine there is a subject you need to get smart on fast, but you do not have the time to hunt down the articles yourself. You can give Claude one highly specific directive.
You open Claude Code and type, search the web for recent YouTube videos and highly rated articles about AI agents published in the last 30 days.
So you are giving it the boundaries of the research. But then you instruct it on what to do with that data, evaluate them, and load the 5 best sources into a new NotebookLM notebook called AI Agents Research, April 2026.
And finally, you demand the exact output you want to see. You say, once those specific sources are loaded, generate a slide deck. I want a clean, dark background, exactly 8 slides written in a professional corporate tone.
It is entirely hands-off. Claude takes that prompt, goes out to the web, curates the sources, silently opens that ghost browser, creates the notebook, uploads every link, and triggers the slide generation.
Wow.
You just sit back and review the final presentation.
The second use case brings us a bit closer to home. You do not always need to search the web. You can turn your own messy local files into polished presentations.
Oh, that is huge. Let's say you just finished a chaotic brainstorm. You have a raw markdown file on your desktop full of unorganized meeting notes. You do not want to manually copy and paste all that text. You just point Claude to the local file path on your computer.
Right. You prompt it simply. You say, take the markdown file sitting at this specific document's path, silently upload it as a source to a brand new notebook called Content Strategy Deck.
Then generate a 7-slide presenter deck from it using a minimal light design.
Yeah.
Claude reaches into your local folder, reads the draft, uploads it, and builds the visual carousel.
It bridges your local hard drive directly to Google's AI without you clicking a single thing.
It is absolutely brilliant for summarizing dense internal reports or, turning draft scripts into visuals. But the third use case, this is the one that really shifts how we absorb information.
I agree.
It is focused entirely on deep, accelerated learning.
Learning complex new frameworks or really technical skills.
Right. You can feed it incredibly dense study materials. Let's say you have 3 heavy technical PDFs on Python programming sitting in your downloads folder. You tell Claude to create a notebook from those exact files. Then you prompt it. Generate a set of 30 study flashcards, focus purely on definitions and syntax. And while you are at it, generate a mind map showing how all these Python concepts connect to each other.
The true genius here isn't just that it makes flashcards. It is how NotebookLM grounds the information. Every single flashcard it generates contains a specific citation.
Right, it links directly back to the exact page and the exact PDF you uploaded.
Yeah.
Think about the feedback loop there. If you are studying and you get a complex syntax question wrong, you just click the citation link on the flashcard,
And boom, you are there.
you are instantly looking at the original source context. It is a perfectly closed-loop study system. You never have to go digging through a 400-page textbook to figure out why you were wrong.
Whoa, I mean, imagine scaling that up. Imagine waking up every single morning to a custom 10-minute audio briefing on decentralized finance, generated entirely from the deepest research papers while you were sleeping.
A daily, highly personalized podcast built just for you, from the exact sources you trust. It is incredible.
It really is.
But that brings up a practical issue. If we are automating this to run every day, we want the outputs to look and sound right consistently.
True.
We do not want a dark corporate slide deck on Monday and a neon pink messy deck on Tuesday. How do you prevent Claude from generating totally random slide designs every time?
Tell Claude to save a specific slide design as a name style for later.
That is a phenomenal pro tip right there. If Claude accidentally generates a slide design you absolutely love, you can just tell it to save that aesthetic as a name style in its memory.
Exactly.
Then, in your daily prompts, you just say, use my standard corporate style. It makes the system significantly faster and totally consistent.
Which perfectly sets up the final piece of this whole puzzle. We do not just want to run these commands manually every morning. We need to talk about scheduling, system limits, and making this run on an invisible timer.
We want true autonomy. And Claude Code actually has a built-in scheduling system to handle this, using something called cron jobs.
Cron jobs are basically just the standard computing method for running tasks on a precise timer. The phrase sounds highly technical, but Claude abstracts all the complexity away.
You literally just type natural language into the terminal. You say, create a scheduled task that runs every single morning at 8 a.m.
And you add, the task should search for the top 5 AI news stories from the past 24 hours, load them into a new notebook named after today's date, then generate both a slide deck summary and a 2-host audio overview.
It is programming through conversation. But as we look at this, there is a massive physical limitation to the system that we absolutely must discuss.
Oh, definitely.
A local scheduled task only runs when your computer's physically awake.
Right. If you set that task for 8 a.m., but your laptop is closed and asleep in your bag, the task simply will not run.
It is helpful to think of a local task, like an eager physical assistant sitting in your office. They are fully prepped and ready to work.
Yeah.
But they cannot do the morning research if you lock them inside a dark room over the weekend. They need the machine to be awake.
You essentially have 2 options to solve this. The first is brute force. You can just adjust your computer's power settings to ensure it never goes to sleep overnight.
Which works.
It is easy, but it is not exactly elegant or practical for a laptop.
The second option is to use a remote task. Claude Code supports pushing these scheduled tasks to the cloud using a GitHub integration.
Oh, that is smart.
Basically, your workspace and instructions are pushed to a remote server. Anthropic systems wake up, run the automation remotely, and drop the results right into your account.
It takes a few extra minutes to configure the GitHub connection, but once you do, it is entirely reliable. Your actual physical laptop can be completely powered down at the bottom of your backpack, and your research machine will still run flawlessly at 8 a.m.
Now let's talk about the system limits, because eventually you are going to want to feed this thing a massive amount of data.
Oh, for sure.
NotebookLM currently operates on a free tier and a newly introduced paid tier.
The free tier is actually remarkably generous. It allows up to 50 individual sources per notebook. If you hit that limit, the paid plans, which run around $14 to $20 a month, allow up to 300 sources per single notebook.
But the real shocker to me is the sheer size allowed for each source. Each individual document you upload can be up to 500,000 words.
That translates to roughly 1 million tokens per document. To put that in perspective, that comfortably covers almost any massive academic research paper, a dense legal filing, or even a full-length textbook.
You could feed it entire libraries of data day after day. But as with any complex system, things will inevitably break.
They always do.
Websites change their layouts, networks drop, automation always encounters some kind of friction.
Mm-hmm.
If I set a task for 8 in the morning and it fails, how do I find out what broke?
Just ask Claude in the terminal what happened, and it explains the error log.
It is entirely self-diagnosing. You do not have to go digging through lines of error code.
No, thankfully.
Claude Code automatically logs any failures in your terminal history. You just type, "What happened with my scheduled task from this morning?" It reads its own failure log and explains the issue back to you in plain English.
It is a remarkably resilient setup once you get it dialed in. We have covered a massive amount of ground today.
Let's slow down for a moment here. I want to synthesize the philosophy behind all of this, because I think it is really easy to get lost in the technical mechanics of packages and background browsers.
Very easy.
We are not just sharing a neat software trick today. We are looking at a true paradigm shift in how we handle human knowledge.
The old way was entirely defined by manual labor. Your own two hands were the bottleneck to your understanding.
Exactly. By bridging a relentless action taker like Claude with an analytical engine like NotebookLM, you evolve. You shift from being the doer, the person clicking, copying, and pasting, to being the director. You simply set the strategic goal, you define the boundaries, and then you just review the synthesized knowledge that is handed back to you.
You are managing the AI. You are not operating the software anymore.
You free up your cognitive load entirely. Your mind is no longer exhausted by the mere act of gathering the information. You actually have the energy and the clarity to apply that information to your life or your business.
Don't just listen to this deep dive and nod along. I have a challenge for you this week. Pick one topic, just one topic that you are intensely curious about right now.
Something that genuinely excites you.
Run the quick connection test. Give Claude one highly specific prompt to research that topic, and watch it build your notebook automatically. The absolute best way to understand the power of the system is to sit back and watch the ghost in the machine work right in front of you.
It fundamentally changes your perspective on what is possible with a computer,
Oh.
but also leaves me with a lingering thought, one I want to pass directly to you before we go. If the friction of gathering, reading, and organizing knowledge completely disappears from our lives, what happens to our human curiosity? Does this frictionless access make us more deeply inquisitive, allowing us to ask bigger, harder questions? Or do we risk outsourcing our fundamental sense of wonder to the machines doing the reading for us? It's something to ponder as you build your own machine.
Fascinating question.
Until next time, keep diving deep.